CSP, just yesterday, the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, has given an ultimatum to the IG about bringing this situation to an end, the bloodshed. Now, I want to ask you, in your mind, in the view of the police force, is the National Assembly doing enough to address whatever structural challenges may be existing right now within the police force, both medium term and long term, in view of some of these things that are going on now?
Thank you so much. I want to draw our mind back. If you look at what the Senate President, the highly respected Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria said, that it's a wake-up call to everybody, that ultimatum. And we are saying that's good enough, but we are saying that they can do further than that. We have 2 billion at the National Assembly now, which will empower the police force better. The Police Development Fund, which is sponsored by Senator Abu Ibrahim, the Senate Chairman of Committee on Police Affairs. We equally have another one by Honorable Lumide Oni at the House of Rep, which is on Police Trust Fund. So if this bill are passed expeditiously, we expected that as they are resuming, they look at this bill and give you the speedy passage so that we can have enough resources to counter any uprising or any crisis that may occur. Mind you, the Nigerian police force is the final arbiter in internal conflict and crisis. No matter what is the level of armament of any other agency you are deploying, the rule of engagement differs. And it is the force that will put its feet on the ground and ensure there's lasting peace.
CSP, to get to the point, can the police meet up with that ultimatum?
When you say ultimatum, ultimatum is not when you have something in your cupboard and somebody says you bring it out in 2 hours. You have ultimatum in that regard. But you are dealing with a crisis situation where the Inspector General of Police have been directed by the Commander-in-Chief, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and President Muhammadu Buhari to proceed to Benue, and he has complied with that. And I know definitely the President and Commander-in-Chief have given the time limit for which to bring law and order in Benue State. And you can see in the few days that he arrived there, he went to Logo, he went to Tunga, he went to Uma, which are the theater of the crisis, and restored peace.
Is this still in Benue?
Yes. Why? It's on ground. It's on ground. You know, you have to come back until when the President and Commander...
Just clarifying, because we heard that he also was in Nasarawa for a bit. He went to Nasarawa.
Yeah, you know, there are issues in Tunga. Tunga is a border community between Nasarawa, Benue, and Taraba. And quite a number of people who are internally displaced are moving to Nasarawa. And this accusation, apparently it was, an apology was tendered, I think, by Benue State Governor that Nasarawa was being used as a launching pad to attack Benue State. And the Inspector General of Police went in there to see things for himself and different people, and equally bind the people over. By binding them, meeting with all the section of the community there to ensure that they assist. Because anything that affects Benue affects Nasarawa. Anything that affects Nasarawa equally affects...
Did he find any truth to the allegations that indeed that local government or areas around the local governments were harboring those who were coming to Benue to perpetrate the attack?
I think those are part of the investigation, and the Inspector General of Police is going to submit the report to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So until when that is done, I'll be able to reveal any aspect of the findings.
So far, so good. Just a moment. So far, so good. Have any arrests been made in the death of the 73 people who were killed?
Yes, definitely. And that is why it is important for the media to equally assist us. We don't just run the issue of sensational items on the media. We equally draw attention to what we have done. 8 people were promptly arrested, that were arrested in the act. And these 8 people are herdsmen. And this is the first time that you have such a crisis and people who are directly responsible are arrested and they are being taken to court.
In the act of trying to murder people?
In the act of, yes, in the act of setting houses ablaze, attacking people, and equally causing the death of several people. And they are being arraigned in court. And nobody look at that, of what police have done in that regard.
But those herdsmen, are they Nigerians?
That's the details of the investigation, and the courts, they are trying in court to equally prove that. But to the best of what we have done, because well, it's like whether you are asking whether I'm in Nigeria or not, or probably you are asking...
No, Mr. Moshood, we know that oftentimes when the police, get suspects, sometimes there is a parade, and, you would tell us whether these people are Nigerians or they're Nigerians or they're from Chad. we've seen situations like that. So from your preliminary investigation, have you been able to find out the nationalities of the 8 people arrested?
That's why we screen suspects when they are arrested. But somebody can claim to be a Nigerian. Maybe it's not in the actual sense. So the prosecution will take charge of that and will be able to get to the root of that. Because from the claim, it's different from who you are in the first instance. You can even imagine the issue we have in Libya, where people claim to be Nigerian, but actually they are not. And across board. So those are the things that is not definite, that you cannot say definitely this is the identity of the people until you cross-check that. But all of the other 8 people, 6 were arraigned first, then the other 2 that are arrested from very far locations while trying to escape after attacking those villages are equally joined.
So a quick timeline. From the first, when those attacks happened, you've arrested 8 people. 6 of them were arrested that same night, or when?
They were arrested the same day the attack took place.
That's on New Year's Day, or
no,
the second?
No, the day the attack took place, because, you know, when you have the attack on the New Year Day and that of the second, the other 2 people were arrested on the second and they were moved down.
So they already been arraigned in court. When
Yes.
did they have their first time in court?
No, it was prompt. It was reported in the media. It was on. I wouldn't know whether the channel was able to pick it, but I watched it on NTA and other media houses. The arraignment in court, and they are in court in Makodi.
Okay. Now, just wondering, how does the police intend to proceed from here? We've heard accusations. We've heard the governor of the state say, we believe very strongly that the people, the leadership of Mieti, Ala Kauta Hori, should be arrested because they have resisted very vehemently our attempts to try and bring peace through the promulgation of our open grazing and ranching law. What is the police thinking in that direction?
Thank you so much. We think in virtually all directions, because resolution of crime, up to 80% lie at the scene of crime. And equally, you have to bring in people who can assist it. Judges' rules, 1, allow the police, or permitted the police, as the case might be, to, if an offense is committed here in this newsroom, for us to even go as far as going to Lagos, or even going to police headquarters to ask questions from those that we feel can give us answer to the resolution of such a crime. So people utterances are equally put into consideration, but that does not necessarily mean that you should arrest somebody before investigating the person. You have to investigate from the background and know where the culpability of such a person before you go into arrest. I'm going to go into that question. So now, when they said they are going to resist it, resistance, like we've seen them going to court. Apparently, if you say you want to oppose something, you can oppose any view that you don't want to believe in through legal means. And that's what I'm not speaking for them, but we are going beyond the direct and the remote causes to look deep down, and that is the essence of investigation. Investigation is a scientific approach to be able to put a suspect at the scene of crime. You know, the police is not the judge. We have to convince the court beyond reasonable doubt that utterances of such an individual are led to crisis, of instigated or incite people to disturbance. And we are saying that the politicians should allow us to do our job. The force is determined. The IG has relocated on the directive of the President Commander-in-Chief. But all this going to the press wouldn't help anybody. Let us use as a case study. We have a case that can stand the test of trial against those 8 people. Any other person that is fomenting trouble and inciting people to disturbance will equally be arrested and be prosecuted. There's no any limitation to arresting, we don't have any limitation to arresting Militia or any other group that have been, we are seriously convinced that play one role or the other in the commission of this crime.